Hi everybody. I just started this and my husband turned the hairdryer on. So, it's Sandy Bakos here. This is take 2 already, so I'm not going to restart this. Today is Thursday, and I said it was December 20th instead of September 20th on the first video. So, like I said, take 2. This is just a quick clip to catch you up to where I'm at today. I don't plan to publish a video tomorrow because I don't think I've done enough on my projects to really sit and show them. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick clip, put a couple of things away, and then I will publish it next week. I do want to let you know I sent everything out to everybody that has been owed something. The fabric went out. In fact, you guys will probably have received it by the time that you see this. Thank you to Angie in Missouri and to Laura in California for purchasing my 18 count and 22 count fabric that I can't use. Now I have some space to go out and buy some more 14 count. Yay! So, I did the drawing yesterday for the last of the charts that I'm going to give out for a while. One went in the mail yesterday with some other charts that this person had coming. That was the Spirited St. Nick, and it went to Karen Carnine. And then the Peace on Earth, Ramona Brooks has won that, and Ramona, I'm sure I have your address, so I will get that sent out to you as soon as I can. No promise, but at least within the next few days. Thank you to everybody who has requested the charts over the last year or so that I've been giving them away. Not sure when I started that, but I will start that again after the first of the year. I just need to take some slow down time. Okay, moving along. Now I can put those away. Oh, the rest of the charts that I showed, nobody wanted. So we'll bring those out again another time. Okay, I did have a new start. It came up on my wheel, new start one day, and then I spun my wheel for my new starts, and Summer House by Brooks Books came up. This is a free chart. I've already done Spring House, if you'll remember, and this is Summer House. These are so cute, and they are such quick stitches. I just really, really love this. So I worked on this, not a whole lot. Let me show you, make sure I show you right side up. And, oh, not necessarily right side up, but, so I don't show you the back. And there's my beginning. So there's a little sky up here, a tree, a chimney, and the roof. So we'll continue on with that. And I worked on, I'm trying to remember which projects I've worked on. I've worked on Teapot. I have worked on the quilt blocks. I started that last block. Of course, the Summer House. I'm looking, just seeing what I have laying around here to see. Oh, I did some back stitching on the Scarecrow. He's back over there, and the quilt blocks are over there. And the other one that I have done a lot on is my Shades of Summer. And I wanted to say that based on the comments that I read on my last video, I think you guys think that when I said I love confetti, that I was saying it in jest. I really do mean it. I would rather stitch confetti compared to great big blocks of color any day. I know. I'm a detail-oriented person. Every little detail, I have to make sure that it's done that way, that it's correct. And that's part of the reason why I have so much anxiety. And I know it. I'm working on it. We'll see what happens. But anyways, here we go. You can see that up here I moved my Q-snap up a little bit to show this is the bottom of pages 1 and 2 here. And all of this here is now all filled in. No blanks in there. And then I've come down here. And I keep trying to figure out what is the best way for me to stitch this. And I was kind of going out and having, you know, a whole bunch of stuff out here and threads everywhere. And then either yesterday or the day before, I decided to change my tactic a little bit, and I'm trying to fill in the blocks as I go. And I feel less anxious when I do that. So I'm going to be continuing with this. I have decided that instead of putting this one away upstairs, I'm going to keep it out and try to put at least a few stitches into this every day, because there are so many pages on this, and I need to feel like I'm making some kind of progress with it. So I think that if I just work a little bit every day or every other day until I just get sick of it, I think I'll really feel like I'm getting some progress. Other than that, I think that that is about it. I went to the library yesterday. I got some books, a couple of nonfiction and one fiction. And hang on just a second and I will grab them. I did it wrong again and I shut the video off. Well, we're back, so it's probably going to have an extra clip. Anyways, I never said I was technologically savvy. Anyways, here's the books. The first one is a biography, and I like to read about people. And I think that's why I like FLOSSTUBE, because I like to hear about people's lives. And I really prefer the FLOSSTUBE videos where people tell a little bit about themselves and put themselves out there a little bit. The ones where people just show their stuff and then they're gone, those don't appeal to me that much. But anyways, this is called The Girl Who Smiled Beads. It's written by Clementine Wamoria, not sure how to pronounce that, and Elizabeth Weil. This is the story of a girl from Rwanda. I think that's how you say that, during the time when the war started over there. And she's an adult now, and she goes back to when this all started, when she was around 4 years old. Now, the beginning part of this book, she's telling this story from a 4-year-old's memory. But her sister was quite a bit older, so I think her sister is helping her remember too. But it's the story of the stuff that was taking place in Rwanda at that time. And I don't remember, 1994 was when the civil wars and everything over there in Africa started. I am on page, hold on please, I'm on page 38, and I am really involved in this story. Knowing that her life turns out okay in the end is good right now, because I'm reading about some of the stuff that was happening over there, but it also had a very deep effect on her and will affect her for the rest of her life. So good story. Okay, the next one, I don't know how many of you, I'm sure everybody heard quite a few years ago about right here near where I live in Cleveland, Ohio, where they found a house of horrors, where there was a man who had kidnapped these girls and kept them there, basically as sex slaves. And one of those girls has become the most outspoken. She's been on many television programs and so forth. She was the first one to be taken. Her name is Michelle Knight. And I found a book at the library yesterday that was written by her. And when this whole thing happened, this hit very close to home, because this was, you know, an hour away, less than an hour away from where I live. And to find out that this kind of thing had happened, it was just, oh, it was heart-wrenching. And so she has already written one book, which I haven't read. So when I finish this one, I think I'll go back and find the other one. But this one is called Finding Healing and Happiness After the Cleveland Kidnappings. It's called Life After Darkness. Haven't started it yet, but I am looking forward to it. And then the next one that I have here that I'm going to be reading is a fiction, and you can see the author and the title on here. I really don't, I've heard of this author before, and I may have read something, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to read it. So that's it. I've dragged on too long. This was just going to be a short little clip, and I did it again, talking too much. So I'm going to let y'all go and see you on the next clip. Bye. Hello again. It's Sandy here. Another short clip, hopefully. I just felt like talking to you guys today. So just a few chatty little things to tell you about. It is Sunday, and it is September 23rd, and it's Woolly Bear Sunday in Vermilion, and I will tell you a little bit about that in a few minutes. We skipped out on church today because of the fact that the Woolly Bear thing is going on, and it kind of makes our town impossible to get in and out of. So what I did want to talk to you about, first, you know, we've been talking about my husband and my anxiety and his Parkinson's and how I've been trying to tap down the anxiety, and I was starting to get it under control this past week, and then several things happened that shot it back up again. And I don't know, I guess I just need to talk about some of these things. One was my husband realized he couldn't find his debit bank card, and that scares me because somebody gets a hold of your debit card, they can get into your bank account, and if they can get into your bank account, then, you know, and there's no recourse. With credit cards, you can dispute a charge. My understanding is that with the bank cards that I guess you can dispute it, but the money still comes out of your account until you can prove that it wasn't your charge, and then you may get it back, but in the meantime, what are you going to have to pay your bills? So I was like freaking out, and I'm hunting everywhere, and I'm going on the bank website because I use the website a lot, and I kept telling him I don't think he had used it recently at all. And he kept telling me, yes, I did. I went here, I went there. And I kept telling him, if you did, it would be on the bank website. So I hurried up, got online, looked at the bank website. I didn't show where he had used the card since August 24th. He kept insisting that he had, and I kept trying to explain to him, no, it's instantaneous. If you went down to the gas station right now and bought gas using that card, within 5 minutes, it would show up on the bank website as a pending transaction. So I said, no, you haven't used it anywhere else. The last time he had used it, as I said, was August 24th, and it was to buy gas for the tractors, the lawn tractor and whatever else out there. He kept arguing with me back and forth and back and forth. No, he had used it. You get the picture. So then I tried to backtrack with him to go back to when he bought the gas for the tractor. He had given me a receipt for it. So he had brought a receipt in and laid it on my desk. But the debit card was nowhere to be found. So I looked in his truck. I looked all over his desk downstairs. I had him look through pockets of clothing that he might have worn then and then just set to one side and hadn't worn again. I go through the pockets when I do the laundry. So I told him, you don't need to worry about anything. You know, if it was in the laundry, I'd know. And so then he started going through the laundry basket. And I said, no, you haven't used it since August 24th, so it wouldn't be in something that you just put into the laundry. So we went round and round and round and looked all over the place, and so I got a hold of the bank. I canceled the card. I told him don't replace it. And then I told my husband, I said, I'm sorry, but with what's happening, I don't think you should have a debit card. You've got credit cards. Use the credit card when you go to the gas station. I said, if something happens, if you lose the credit card and somebody gets it, we can dispute it, and they will take it right off the bill, and they will check it out. But I said, the debit card is just too dangerous. So he accepted that. So we never did find it. My guess is he shoved it in the pocket of his shorts and that day, and then maybe it fell out in the yard or when he was riding the lawn tractor, and we'll probably never find it. So it's canceled. He won't be getting another one, so that took care of that. But still, at the time, really raised my anxiety levels. We had really, really hot, humid weather all last week, and you know I don't do well with that. I think Friday we were close to 90 degrees. Then yesterday, we were like at 60 degrees. Talk about crazy Ohio weather. But anyways, yesterday morning, I got up about, I don't know, it was a little after 5. I came downstairs, got me a cup of coffee, and sat down to stitch. And about 5:45, I heard brakes and then this thump sound. And it was kind of like the sound when two cars hit together, but not quite that loud. So at first I thought, well, maybe somebody hit a deer out front, because the deer do cross here. This is a crossing here from one set of woods over across the road to the woods behind us, and everything crosses here. The deer, the turkeys, you know, coyotes once in a blue moon. So I thought maybe somebody hit a deer. So I jumped up, I went over, I turned the light on the porch, went out on the porch, and I'm looking, and I can't see any headlights or brake lights or anything, tail lights out there. And so I'm like, well, that's really strange. So I stood there for a minute and I waited, and then a car came by from the west going east. So I kind of looked when the car went by to see if I could see anything, and I saw nothing. It's pitch black dark, you know. So I thought, well, okay, I'll have to wait till it gets a little more light, because I knew I'd heard something. So I went and asked my husband. I said, did you hear that? And he said, I heard something. He said, I don't know what it was. Then a few minutes later, I went down and I went out into the garage and kept all the lights off, and then just stood in the garage and looked through the garage door window to see the other way, down the road the other way, to see if I could see anything. Couldn't see anything, so I thought, well, you know, I don't know. So I waited. Well, when it got a little lighter, I went and I looked. I found out what they hit. Our mailbox and our paper box were leveled. So I went and I told my husband, I said, you got to come and look. And I said, you're not going to like it. So we walked out there, and it was still, you know, it was just starting to get light. So we went out there and we looked, and we're like, geez, somebody hit all this like this bad, and they didn't even stop? There's no car out here. In fact, we actually went all the way out to the road, and we actually looked to see if there was a car somewhere in a ditch down further or off the road somewhere, because, I mean, they had to have been booking to have flattened. These were metal posts in the ground. And, well, for the paper boxes, it was 2 metal posts out there for paper boxes. They were flattened all the way to the ground. And the mailbox had been on a big, thick, like 4x4 wooden post. And that thing was just ripped right out of the ground and broke in half. the mailbox lid had come off and flew on, and our stuff was thrown. I mean, many feet. So, you know, the newspaper came out of the box because they had already delivered that, and it was probably 10 feet away from where the paper box was. So, you know, they were booking it. And so we looked and we looked. Then we started finding car parts. And I'm like, oh, wow, somebody's car fell apart here. So we went in, we called the sheriff's department, and I'm sorry if this is taking too long, and if you're not interested, you can go on. I did post pictures on Instagram yesterday. But anyways, we called the sheriff's department, and they said they'd send somebody out. So this really young guy came. Oh my gosh, he was like a little kid, made me feel so old. But anyways, he came and he went out there. He found some more car parts, and he was able to tell us because the car parts are stamped on the inside, and they were Subaru car parts. So I said, oh, okay, we know it was a Subaru, but they were the underneath, you know, like under the front of the car. You know, they have that stuff that I forget what you call that is down below the car. Well, it was all that trim stuff. There was, oh, I don't know how many pieces of it. Some of them were broken. Some of them were just laying there. And so we knew it was a Subaru. So he took down all the information, gave us a report number and everything so we can get the report for insurance purposes. So then later on, when I was dressed and it was more light outside, I went back out there and looked. Found more car parts. There were car parts up into our yard 30 feet away from the road, little parts that had broke off and just flew. Plus there was more parts in both ditches on either side of the driveway, and I actually found a piece which had the colored part of the car. So I thought, well, I'll call and have them come back out and pick that up, because now they'll know that it was a maroon or burgundy colored car. And had to have had horrible front end damage. So then when we're out there looking, we could actually see where the guy left the road, and he left the road just beyond our neighbor's driveway because you could see the tracks in the grass. And as he came down these deep ditches, if you get off in them, they tend to suck you in. And you could see his car was starting to slide down into the ditch by the tracks going. And then he apparently got it turned enough that when he got to our mailboxes, it must have been the right front of his car that took, because that's where the tire tracks go, right over the top of our mailboxes and paper boxes. Then you can actually see it go across our driveway, and then just past our driveway, he must have gotten it back on the road, because there's actually skid marks on the road there going clear across the road into the other lane, and then the skid marks are gone. So he must have, when he got over there, he must have got it under control again. And I'm telling you what, even the patrolman, when he came back out again and he picked up that other part, he says, I really want to find this guy. But he told me, he says, it's probably going to be, unless we happen to see the guy driving by with the damage on his car and it's a burgundy car, he says, we're not going to be able to, find him. But he actually said, too, that the guy was really lucky, because if he would have got sucked down into that deep ditch, he would have hit the driveway culvert, and it probably would have flipped his car like it did the other kid that took down the mailboxes a couple of years ago, or last year or something. I can't remember exactly when that was. And also, he missed a sign out there by the ditch by probably by inches. That's for the curve, because we're on a curve. And just on the other side of our driveway is another one of those metal curve signs and a utility pole. So he got it back on the road just in time to miss that. So it could have been, he has to have an awfully damaged car, but he's alive. And that might not have been the case if he would have hit that utility pole. And the patrolman or deputy, sheriff, so it's a deputy, not a patrolman, he also said that he says the guy had to have been going at a really, really high rate of speed to have flattened that stuff the way he did, and for those parts to have flown as far away as they did. So that was excitement. So then that got my husband all upset, because now he's like, I've got to get a new post, I've got to get a new mailbox. He was just like totally freaking out. He was expecting a package to arrive yesterday that would have been small enough to go in the mailbox, and of course they didn't leave any mail. And then when he goes on the website today, it shows it was delivered. So he's like totally freaking out. I just kind of need to take a deep breath. So, anyways, in and amongst all of that stuff there, one day I said, why don't we go to Dairy Queen and have some supper and get some ice cream? So we did that, and he said he wanted to go down to the hardware store. He's still working. We still have a drain problem. I don't know if I mentioned that in my other videos. Our downstairs bathroom drain started leaking, and he has not been able to fix it. It's been that way for close to a week now. He works on it, and then he doesn't. So he said he needed something for that. And I said, well, okay, well, you go down there, because the Dairy Queen is like in a little shopping center in next town over. And so I said, I'm going to go in this Goodwill store over here, because I've never been in that Goodwill store. And I walked over there, and it said 50% off everything in the store. And I'm like, oh. So I walked in, and the girl says, hi, 50% off everything in the store. And I said, oh, are you closing? And she says, oh, no, we're moving. They've built a huge, great big new 3,000 square foot store, and we're going to be moving over there. So we're trying to sell off almost everything we have here. And I said, oh, okay. So I started looking around. Well, I walked out of there for $11.06 later. And you wouldn't believe what I ended up with. I found a bookcase that I thought I could put in my craft room upstairs, and I didn't take a picture of it or anything, and it's not in bad shape, and it's probably about 4 foot high, 3.5, 4 foot high, and it needs to be cleaned up, so I'm going to clean it up, but for going up in my crafty room, it'll be perfectly fine. And I got that. I got a whole bunch of paperback books. I didn't count them. I think maybe eight or nine paperback books. And then I saw this. It was way back in a corner. And at first, when I glanced at it, I thought it was cross-stitch. Doesn't it look like cross-stitch? But it's not. It's a flat, there's no glass. It's just a flat picture in here. And it's right on the wood. So it's not like it's a paper or anything in here, like an actual picture. But I loved this frame. And it was marked $1.79, and so I paid half of that. So like I said, for $11.06, I got this, which I can reuse this frame. And it's in really good shape. It has a couple of little spots on it, but that just makes it look a little distressed. And I thought to put something in, I'm sure I'll end up at some point with a project that would go great in a distressed looking frame. The bookcase and all those books. Score big. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is a fail. Huge fail. But I'm going to finish it because it was my practice piece before I do my granddaughter's pillow. And I did learn some things in doing this. I'd never made a cross-stitch pillow before. This is a mess. This was my witch's thing, which was no big deal. I mean, if I screwed it up, I screwed it up. it was just something I did to join a sale last year, not because I truly loved it or anything. So that's okay. But anyways, the first mistake that I made was I went to put the inner facing on, and me with my anxiety and rushing around and doing stuff, I ironed it on to the cross stitch instead of onto the back. And as soon as I did it, I realized, I turned it over and I looked at it and I went, oh my gosh. And I started trying to peel it off. And I slowly peeled across the thing. And thankfully, it didn't pull any of the stitches out. I mean, you can see it didn't pull any of the stitches out, but it did leave a little bit of the stuff behind here in a couple of spots. And it just made everything really crunchy on the front. But I thought, well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, because this is my practice piece. So I was trying to follow the tutorial that Vanna had. And so I put some interfacing on my backing fabric. But I did find out two things. Number one, make sure you put your interfacing on the back side of your cross stitch piece. And then the next thing that I learned was my interfacing, I think, is too strong. So I think I need to get a lighter weight. And I just had picked something up that was in my sewing upstairs from when I used to sew clothing. So I need to get me some lightweight interfacing. Okay, then Vanna's tutorial said to use 1/4 of an inch stitch around. And I don't think that was enough, because I don't think my pieces were even enough, because what I did was I ended up with spots where, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but like right here, it didn't catch. It left out some threads here, and you can see a little bit here. And then right here, it caught, but there's just a couple of pieces of the sticking up there. I think you can see that. And then this side was pretty good. So what I'm going to do to, what I'm going to do to try to save this is I'm going to start down here where I left the little opening, and I'm going to use some black thread, and I'm going to do a zigzag all the way around all the edges here, all the way back down to where the other part of the opening is. And then I'm going to go ahead and stuff it. And then once it's stuffed, I don't know if I'll be able to put a zigzag in down here or not, because I may not be able to get it into the sewing machine. But even if I don't, this is just for me, and that's what I'm going to try to do. I don't know. Anyways, I've been stitching, but I'm not going to show you anything today. What I'm going to do is, in fact, this is getting kind of long just here with just me sitting here and talking. And maybe what I might do is go ahead, finish up this video, and publish it. And then in a few days, or maybe Friday, I'll do a true stitching video where I show you all the projects, all the whips that I worked on. How does that sound? Do you think that'll... I'm sorry. I need to get, well, I don't want to say back to doing this good, because I don't know if I ever did it good. But I had one other thing I was going to show you. Here in the newspaper, well, actually there was two things I was going to tell you. I could tell you about Woolly Bear. Here in the paper, and I think this was yesterday's paper, they talked about the Crystal Beach Park site was going to get a tag marker for historical. See that roller coaster? That was a wooden roller coaster, and I rode that many times as a child. Crystal Beach Amusement Park was in Vermilion. It was up on the lake, and it opened in, many, I think it was like 1907 or something, long time ago. And it closed in 1962. And that roller coaster messed up my neck. I don't know if you've ever noticed how my neck is out of whack in the back. I did that on that roller coaster. When you came down that, and I don't remember it exactly anymore because it closed in 1962, and in 1962, I would have been just going into high school then, so I don't know exactly how old I would have been, but, well, wait a minute. I have a calculator here. My brain doesn't work anymore, but my calculator works. 1962. I was 13 in 1962, so this probably happened when I was maybe 10 or 11. That hill on that roller coaster, when it went down, was so steep and it was so fast that it threw my neck back out over the back of the roller coaster. And I couldn't move my neck for weeks. And then my parents had this friend, because you didn't go to the doctor back then. My parents had this friend that said, "Oh, I can fix your neck." And he put me into some kind of a headlock. I'm lucky I didn't end up with a broken neck. He cracked my neck so bad that I ended up with this kind of, part of that's my scoliosis, but the other part isn't. And it said in here about that roller coaster. I don't want to leave you hanging here that long. But anyways, it said about how high that was and how fast that roller coaster was. But anyways, it was a big deal. Here, it traveled up to 70 miles per hour in the dip. And for that being way back then, and that roller coaster was built in 1926. Yeah. Anyways, they're making that as historical site now. Right now on that property where that was, there's apartments and condos, and there's a gas station, and they used to have, the parking was across the road, and across the road where that was is a shopping center. So, you know, things change. The other thing that they had was a ballroom there, and I don't remember the ballroom because I was a kid back then, but Frank Sinatra and who was the Frank Sinatra sang there at the ballroom. They had dances. This was going way back. The big band era in the 40s, that was a place where those big popular bands used, the swing bands, and that used to come, and people would go there to dance, and, you know, history. I don't know if you're into that or not, but history. The other thing I was going to tell you about was Woolly Bear Sunday. This is Woolly Bear Sunday, and there was a Cleveland weatherman named Dick Goddard, and he's still around. He's retired now. He's way up there in years. He has to be way up in his 80s. And he's retired to Florida now, but they said he was coming back today to be the Grand Marshal of the parade. But he got this started way back. I can't even remember how many years ago. And they have woolly bear races. They have where you dress your pets up to be woolly bear lookalikes. They have kids dressed up to look like woolly bears. A huge parade. They flock in here from the Cleveland area. And Route 2, which is the main route, 4-lane highway that cuts through here, it can be backed up for miles with people trying to get into town. And parking is always at a premium, and they use shuttles. They park people at like the high school complex, and they'll shuttle people into town, and they close down. Basically, the whole town closes down at a certain time, and you have to get there before that. And then in the afternoon, when it's all over with, you know, then everybody's trying to get out of town. So it's someplace you don't want to go. That's why we didn't go to church today. Because we have to go right through town to get to our church. And but it's a big deal around here. And they had a thing in the newspaper. They said it's known around the country. So I don't know about that. But if you live somewhere else in the country or in the state of Ohio and you heard about Dick Goddard and the Woolly Bear Festival, it's here today. I heard the loudspeakers earlier. They have something that they do over at the high school in the morning. I don't know if it's a Woolly Bear Run or what it is, but I could hear the loudspeakers. I don't think I would hear them from town, but I can hear them from where the high school complex is. Okay, one more thing, and then I'm going to close this out. I have been continuing to read this book. Oh my goodness. We in the United States, and probably, and I'm not going to say everybody, but me especially in the United States and in other parts of the world, have no clue what is happening in faraway other parts of the world. And oh my gosh, that's all I'm going to say. I will tell you more about the book when I'm done with it. I've also started this one. And I told you about this in the other video. And I'm only just into this. But I have no words. I'll finish the book and then I'll talk about it, I think. But I am reading it. So we're at 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. So definitely, I'm going to put these 3 clips together and just go ahead and publish it the way it is. And apologize to everybody for my rambling and everything. But I guess this is real. This is real people. This is real life. So I will come back maybe Thursday or Friday, and like I said, give you a whip parade of everything that I've worked on. I have done a ton of stitching, so I think you'll enjoy it then. So we'll see you then. Take care. Sending love and hugs out to everybody as always, and special prayers to North and South Carolina and all the people there. I know there's some devastating flooding. A lot of people died. And that's sad too. So everybody's in my prayers. I'm just going to pray for everybody. Okay, so long.